Picture a Saturday morning in a home in Tokyo. A 3-year-old boy has just knocked over a glass of water. It spreads across the kitchen table, soaks into a stack of papers, drips onto the floor. The mother does not raise her voice. She does not threaten. She does not bribe him with something sweet if he helps clean it up. She kneels down to his level, looks him in the eye, and says, quietly and without urgency, "Look at what happened. The water is everywhere. What do you think we should do?" The boy looks at the water, he looks at his mother, and then, slowly, he walks to the drawer where the dish towels are kept, pulls one out, and starts to clean it up himself. The mother stays beside him. She does not praise him extravagantly. She does not say good job or hand him a reward. She simply says, yes, that's what we do. And something is built in that moment that no flashcard, no enrichment program, no parenting app can replicate. Something that will still be inside that child 20 years from now. If you are raising a child who melts down when they don't get what they want, who needs a reward every time they do something you ask, who cannot seem to sit with discomfort for more than a few seconds without unraveling, this video is going to give you something more useful than a list of tips. It's going to give you a completely different way of understanding what calm actually is, where it comes from, and what you are building every single day inside your child's brain without even realizing it. Because here is the truth that most parenting advice in the Western world gets quietly backwards. Calm is not something you teach a child. Calm is something a child learns to grow inside themselves, but only if the adults around them have built the conditions for it to take root. And Japanese parenting culture, not perfectly, not without its own complexities, but in some deeply specific and neurologically grounded ways, has been cultivating those conditions for generations. If this is already making you see your baby differently, hit the like button and subscribe. It really helps. And drop a comment telling me how old your little one is right now. I love knowing who I'm talking to. What we are going to look at today is not a cultural comparison, and it is not a judgment. It is an examination of specific practices, specific habits, specific ways of responding to children in ordinary moments that the research on child development and emotional regulation has been quietly confirming for decades. The Japanese have a name for some of these ideas: Amae, Gaman, Omoiyari. We will get to those, but the science underneath them is universal. It lives in your child's brain right now, regardless of where you were born or how you were raised. Let's start with what's actually happening inside your child when they lose control. When your toddler is on the floor of the grocery store, limbs going in 4 directions at once, face red, voice at a pitch that makes strangers look over. What is occurring neurologically in that moment is not a behavior problem. It is a biology problem. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for regulating emotion, pausing before reacting, tolerating frustration, and thinking through consequences, is not fully developed until a human being is in their mid-20s. In a 3-year-old, it is barely online. It is a construction site. What is fully online in a 3-year-old is the amygdala, the brain's threat detection and emotional response system. The amygdala does not weigh options. It does not consider consequences. It responds to perceived threat, which in the case of a toddler who cannot have the cereal box they want, is a genuine experience of distress even if it looks absurd from the outside. The screaming is not manipulation. The screaming is a nervous system without adequate regulation infrastructure encountering something it cannot manage alone. And here is the part that changes everything about how you respond. That regulation infrastructure is not built by telling a child to calm down. It is not built by punishing the meltdown. It is not built by bribing the child into compliance. It is built through a specific, repeated process that neuroscientists call co-regulation, and that Japanese parenting culture has been practicing quietly, practically, and consistently for as long as anyone can remember. Co-regulation is exactly what it sounds like. The child's nervous system borrows the calm of a regulated adult in order to find its own way back to baseline. It is the same mechanism at work when a baby on your chest finds your heartbeat and goes still. It does not disappear when they learn to walk. It does not disappear when they start talking. It is present throughout childhood, throughout adolescence, and honestly in some form throughout life. We are a species that regulates in relationship. The child who appears to have no self-control does not need punishment. They need a co-regulating adult whose nervous system is offering something their own system can borrow. Now here is where the Japanese practices become remarkable. Because several of the most deeply embedded cultural habits around child rearing in Japan, habits that look from the outside like permissiveness, like indulgence, like a refusal to discipline, are actually, neurologically speaking, some of the most sophisticated co-regulation practices that exist. They are not accidental. They are the accumulated wisdom of generations of people who understood, without the vocabulary of neuroscience, that a calm child is grown from the inside out, and that the adult's job is not to force compliance but to build the internal architecture that makes self-regulation possible. The first practice is called Amae. There is no direct English translation, but the closest is something like dependent trust, or the freedom to presume on another's benevolence. In Japanese parenting, Amae describes the specific quality of the parent-child bond in the early years. The idea that a young child should be allowed, even encouraged, to lean completely into the parent's care without shame, without being pushed toward independence before the nervous system is ready for it. This is not coddling. This is biology. Research on secure attachment consistently shows that children who are allowed to depend fully on a caregiver in the early years, whose needs are met consistently and without judgment, develop better emotional regulation, more genuine independence, and greater resilience under stress than children who are pushed towards self-sufficiency before their brain is capable of it. The parent who meets the baby's 2 a.m. need for the heartbeat is practicing Amae. The parent who stays beside the 3-year-old while he mops up the water rather than scolding and walking away is practicing Amae. The parent who does not force the child to apologize on command but instead waits, creates space, and allows the feeling to move through the child in its own time, that parent is practicing Amae. And what each of those moments deposits into the developing brain is a piece of the architecture of calm, the neural evidence that the world is safe, that distress has an end, that the person who loves me does not withdraw when I am at my worst. The second practice is Gaman, and this is where Japanese parenting begins to look, to Western eyes, almost contradictory. Because Gaman is the practice of enduring difficulty with patience and dignity. It is the deliberate, gentle, consistent teaching of frustration tolerance, not through harshness, not through punishment, but through the quiet modeling of a parent who does not collapse under difficulty themselves, and who trusts the child to move through discomfort rather than rescuing them from it the moment it arrives. Think about what happens in most homes when a child encounters frustration. The puzzle piece won't fit, the shoe won't go on, the drawing doesn't look the way they wanted it to. The child begins to fray at the edges, voice rising, body tightening, and the parent, out of love, out of the completely understandable instinct to stop the distress, steps in immediately, takes over the puzzle, does up the shoe, says it's okay, it doesn't matter. The distress stops, the parent feels relief, and the child's brain has just received a very specific piece of information. When things get hard, someone else handles it. That information is not neutral. It is deposited into the developing architecture of self-belief, into the child's internal answer to the question, can I manage difficulty? And the answer, delivered silently and repeatedly in these moments, is, probably not. You need help. That is what the rescue says, even when it is offered with total love. Gaman asks the parent to do something much harder than rescuing. It asks the parent to stay present, to stay calm, to stay warm, and to wait, to let the child sit inside the frustration for one more breath than feels comfortable, not abandoning them to it, but not lifting them out of it before their own system has had the chance to discover that it can find a way through. The Japanese mother who watches her 4-year-old struggle with his backpack clasps without rushing to help him is not being cold. She is communicating something specific and profound through her stillness. I believe you can do this. And that belief, transmitted not through words, but through the patient quality of her presence, is one of the most powerful things a parent can give a child's developing brain. If you're finding this helpful, please subscribe and turn on notifications. I upload new videos every week, and I'd hate for you to miss one. Your support is what makes this channel possible, and it genuinely means the world to me. The third practice is Omoiyari, the cultivation of empathy, of reading other people's feelings and responding to them without being asked. In Japanese early childhood education, this is not an afterthought. It is the curriculum. Children are taught from the earliest ages to notice the feelings of others, to consider the impact of their actions on the people around them, to ask not just what do I want, but what does this person need right now? And the way it is taught is not through lectures. It is through the parent's daily consistent modeling of exactly that quality. The parent who notices when the child is tired before the child can name it, who reads the room, who responds to the unspoken signal. The child who grows up inside that quality of attentive presence does not just receive empathy, they learn how to offer it. They internalize the practice because they have lived inside it. They know what it feels like to be seen before you have found the words, and so they learn to see others the same way. Now bring these three practices together. Amae, the freedom to depend fully in the early years. Gaman, the gentle, patient building of frustration tolerance. Omoiyari, the cultivation of empathy through daily modeling. And what you have is not a parenting style. What you have is a complete, coherent approach to building a regulated nervous system from the inside out. Each practice is targeting a different layer of the same architecture. Amae builds the secure base, the child's fundamental sense that the world is safe and that they are held. Gaman builds the frustration threshold, the child's capacity to sit inside difficulty without being destroyed by it. And Omoiyari builds the social brain, the child's ability to orient toward others, to feel connected, to find meaning beyond their own internal state. Together, they create something that no reward chart, no consequence system, no yelling and no bribing can manufacture. A child who is calm because they are secure, patient because they have been trusted with difficulty, and connected because they have been seen. Go back to that Saturday morning kitchen, the water spreading across the table, the 3-year-old boy standing there, watching it happen. Before you understood any of what we have just talked about, that scene might have read as a parenting moment about the mess, how to manage the chaos, how to get compliance, how to teach a lesson. But now look at it again. The mother who kneels down instead of towering over him is regulating her own nervous system first, and by doing so, she is offering her regulated nervous system to his. She is practicing Amae, meeting him exactly where he is, without withdrawal, without shame. When she asks, "What do you think we should do?" instead of telling him, she is practicing Gaman, not rescuing him from the discomfort of the mistake, but trusting him to find his way through it with her beside him. And when she stays quiet as he gets the towel, when she does not flood him with praise or engineer his response with a reward, she is practicing Omoiyari, treating him as a person capable of reading the situation and responding to it, modeling the quiet dignity of simply doing what needs to be done. The whole thing takes 4 minutes. No yelling, no bribing. And what is deposited into that child's brain in those 4 minutes is more durable than anything a parenting program could manufacture. He has just experienced what it feels like to move through a mistake with his nervous system intact. That experience will be there the next time, and the time after that. This is what the research has been pointing toward for decades. The Minnesota Longitudinal Study of Risk and Adaptation, which tracked children from infancy into adulthood, found that the single most predictive variable for emotional regulation, resilience under stress, and the quality of adult relationships was not intelligence, not educational opportunity, not even the absence of hardship. It was the quality of the early caregiving relationship. Specifically, whether the child had experienced consistent, attuned, co-regulating care from a reliable adult in the first years of life. The child who had that did not need a perfect childhood after it. They had already built something inside themselves that difficulty could not easily dismantle, and you do not need to move to Japan to give your child that. You do not need to overhaul everything about how you parent or hold yourself to an impossible standard. You need to understand what you are actually building in the ordinary moments, because once you understand it, the ordinary moments stop feeling ordinary. The moment you pause before you raise your voice, that is a deposit. The moment you kneel down instead of looking down, that is a deposit. The moment you wait, just one breath longer than is comfortable, and let your child discover that they can manage what felt unmanageable, that is a deposit. None of these moments will make the news. Your child will not thank you for them. You will not always know in the moment whether you got it right, but the architecture being built inside your child's brain through the accumulated weight of these moments is the most important thing being built in your home right now. More important than the activities. More important than the screen time rules. More important than whether they can read before kindergarten. The calm child. The child who can sit with frustration, who can repair after conflict, who can walk into a difficult room and find their footing. That child was not born that way. They were built that way, in the kitchen on a Saturday morning, at the dinner table when no one was watching, in the quiet moment when you chose to stay regulated so they could borrow what they needed from you. You are doing that right now, every time you show up, every time you stay. Every time you trust that the love you are bringing into these ordinary moments is landing somewhere important inside them, because it always has been. Thank you so much for being here until the very end. It means everything. If this video changed how you see your baby even a little, please share it with another parent who needs to hear it. Check out the videos on your screen now. I think you'll love them. And subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next one.